approximately 5 a.m. Moscow time, September 27, 2025, Ukrainian drones were seconds away from striking the Tingovatovo oil pumping station, deep in Russia's Chuvash Republic, 1,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. In a nutshell, the security service of Ukraine was about to demonstrate that no Russian oil facility is beyond reach, cutting off the petrodollars that fuel Putin's war machine and forcing Russia to confront a new reality where their economic lifelines can burn from 1,000 kilometers away. If you were in command, would you authorize a strike this deep into enemy territory, knowing it could escalate the economic war to unprecedented levels? Drop your answer in the comments, because what unfolds next changes everything about long-range drone warfare. The target wasn't just any facility. It was the Tingovatovo oil pumping station in the settlement of Konar, a critical node in Russia's vast petroleum network. This facility pumps millions of barrels of oil that generate what the SSU calls extraordinary profits used to wage war against Ukraine. Think about the strategic mathematics here. Every barrel of oil that flows through Tingovatovo eventually becomes rubles in Russia's war chest. Every minute those pumps operate, they're funding artillery shells, missiles, and military salaries. The facility operates 24/7, moving crude oil through massive pipelines that stretch across the Russian heartland. The Security Service of Ukraine's Special Operations Center A had been planning this for weeks. This wasn't going to be a random strike. It was surgical economic warfare, designed to hit Russia where it hurts most: the wallet. The distance alone made this operation unprecedented: 1,000 kilometers. That's the distance from New York to Atlanta, from London to Rome. And Ukraine was about to prove they could reach that far with lethal precision. The SSU deployed long-range drones for this mission, unmanned aerial vehicles capable of flying 1,000 kilometers into enemy territory. While the exact model remains classified, these aren't your standard commercial quadcopters. These are purpose-built machines, likely carrying enough fuel for a 2,000-kilometer round trip or configured as one-way weapons with maximum payload. The drones would have needed to fly for approximately 6 to 8 hours at cruising speed, maintaining altitude discipline to avoid radar detection while navigating through Russian airspace. That's 1,000 kilometers of hostile territory where any radar ping, any visual detection, any electronic signature could mean mission failure. The Tingovatovo facility itself is a massive complex with multiple pumping stations. Pumping station number 1, the primary target, houses industrial pumps that move thousands of barrels per hour. These aren't small machines. We're talking about pumps the size of small buildings, with pipes large enough to drive a car through. The facility's normal operations require precise pressure management. Oil doesn't just flow. It's pushed through these pipelines at specific pressures, monitored by control systems that can detect even minor fluctuations. One damaged pump doesn't just stop the flow at that location. It can create pressure waves that damage equipment hundreds of kilometers away. Sometime during the night of September 26 to 27th, the Ukrainian drones lifted off from their launch positions, somewhere in Ukrainian territory. The SSU operators, working from secure locations, would have monitored their progress through encrypted satellite communications. The flight path would have been meticulously planned. These drones couldn't just fly in a straight line. They needed to avoid known air defense positions, populated areas where they might be spotted, and military installations with advanced radar systems. Every waypoint would have been calculated to minimize detection while maintaining fuel efficiency. As the drones crossed into Russian airspace, they entered what military planners call the detection envelope, that zone where Russian radar systems could theoretically spot them. But here's where the SSU's planning paid off. By flying at specific altitudes and speeds, the drones could minimize their radar cross-section, appearing as birds or atmospheric noise rather than hostile aircraft. Hour after hour, kilometer after kilometer, the drones pressed deeper into Russian territory. They passed over sleeping villages, dark forests, and industrial complexes, their sensors recording everything, while their navigation systems kept them on course. The approach to the Chuvash Republic would have been the most dangerous phase. As the drones neared populated areas, the risk of visual detection increased. Someone looking up at the right moment, a security camera catching an unusual shadow, a local radar operator noticing an anomaly, any of these could compromise the mission. What's remarkable about this operation is what didn't happen. The sources confirm no Russian military defensive units engaged the drones. No air defense systems activated. No interception attempts were documented. Either Russian air defenses completely failed to detect the incoming threat, or they detected it too late to respond. This represents a catastrophic failure of Russia's integrated air defense network. The same country that claims to have the world's most advanced anti-aircraft systems couldn't stop drones from flying 1,000 kilometers into their territory. The S-400 systems they've sold to other nations as invincible shields? Silent. The Pantsir systems designed specifically to counter drones? Absent. The weather conditions that night remain unspecified in the sources, but they would have played a crucial role. Clear skies would have increased visual detection risk but improved navigation. Cloud cover would have hidden the drones, but potentially interfered with their sensors. Wind patterns at various altitudes would have affected fuel consumption and flight time. As the drones approached Konar settlement in the early morning hours, they would have switched from cruise mode to attack mode. This is when they're most vulnerable, descending from cruise altitude, increasing speed for the terminal phase, activating terminal guidance systems that could potentially be detected. In the early morning hours of September 27th, the moment arrived. The Ukrainian drones had successfully navigated 1,000 kilometers of hostile territory, avoided all air defenses, and arrived at their target undetected. The strike on pumping station number 1 was precise. The drones didn't just randomly hit the facility, they specifically targeted the most critical component. When the warheads detonated, they didn't just damage the pumps. They started a fire that would multiply the destruction. Fire at an oil facility isn't just flames, it's a cascading disaster. The heat damages nearby equipment, potentially causing pipeline ruptures. Automatic safety systems activate, shutting down connected infrastructure. Fire suppression systems engage, but oil fires are notoriously difficult to extinguish. The facility's own safety protocols would have demanded an immediate shutdown of all operations. The impact was instantaneous. Oil flow through the facility stopped completely. Thousands of barrels per hour, gone. The pressure drop would have registered at monitoring stations hundreds of kilometers away. Alarms would have sounded at Transneft headquarters. Emergency protocols would have activated across the entire pipeline network. As flames engulfed pumping station number 1, the full scope of the disaster became clear. This wasn't just a building on fire, it was a critical piece of Russia's economic infrastructure burning in the heart of the country, 1,000 kilometers from the nearest Ukrainian position. The fire would have been visible for kilometers, a pillar of black smoke rising into the morning sky. Local emergency services would have rushed to the scene, but oil fires require specialized equipment and training. Regular fire trucks can't just spray water on burning petroleum that can actually spread the fire. Inside the facility's control room, operators would have watched helplessly as automated systems showed pump after pump going offline, pipeline pressure dropping, flow rates zeroing out, emergency shutdown procedures cascading through the network. Every second meant thousands of dollars in lost revenue and potential equipment damage. The head of Chuvash Republic, Oleg Nikolaev, would have received the call that every regional governor dreads. We're under attack. Not by an army at the border, not by missiles from the sky, but by drones that had somehow flown 1,000 kilometers without detection. By dawn on September 27th, the Tingovatovo oil pumping station was officially non-operational. The immediate damage assessment began, with Russian officials quickly claiming only minor damage, a claim that rings hollow when the entire facility has been shut down and pumping station number 1 is on fire. Oleg Nikolaev's public statement was revealing in its careful wording, "There is no threat to the population. No one has been injured. Minor damage has been caused. The facility's operations have been suspended. The entire emergency response system is operating in an enhanced mode. Let's decode that. Minor damage that requires complete operational suspension isn't minor. Enhanced mode for emergency response means all available resources are being deployed. And the careful emphasis on no threat to the population suggests authorities were worried about panic. The SSU's statement was more direct. The SSU continues to impose sanctions on Russia's oil sector, which generates extraordinary profits used to wage war against Ukraine. Efforts to cut petrodollars from the Russian budget will continue. That last sentence, will continue, is a promise and a threat. This wasn't a one-time lucky strike. This was the demonstration of a new capability that can be repeated anywhere, anytime. The strategic implications ripple far beyond one damaged facility. Every oil installation in Russia, no matter how far from Ukraine, is now a potential target. Every pipeline, every refinery, every storage facility must now be defended against a threat that can come from one. The economic impact, while not specified in exact monetary terms, is substantial. Every hour the facility remains offline costs Russia oil revenue. Every barrel that doesn't flow is money not entering the war budget. The extraordinary profits the SSU mentioned, they're burning in the Chuvash Republic. But perhaps the most significant impact is psychological. Russian citizens woke up to news that Ukraine had struck deep inside their country, in a region that should have been completely safe. If drones can reach Chuvash Republic, 1,000 kilometers from Ukraine, where else can they reach? Moscow is only 450 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. St. Petersburg is 850 kilometers. Nowhere is safe. This operation represents a fundamental shift in modern warfare. The ability to conduct precision strikes at 1,000-kilometer range with unmanned systems changes every calculation. Traditional concepts of rear areas and safe zones no longer exist. Consider what this means for military planning. Russia must now defend thousands of potential targets across its vast territory. Every critical infrastructure node needs air defense coverage. Every oil facility needs drone detection systems. Every pipeline needs monitoring. The cost of defending everything is astronomical and impossible. The drones used in this operation proved several critical capabilities. First, they can navigate autonomously for 1,000 kilometers without satellite guidance that could be jammed. Second, they can evade or weren't detected by Russia's integrated air defense network. Third, they can deliver precise strikes on specific targets, not just area bombardment. By targeting oil infrastructure, Ukraine has opened a new front in economic warfare. Every successful strike doesn't just cause immediate damage. It raises insurance costs, increases security expenses, and creates uncertainty in global energy markets. Russia's oil industry, which generates the extraordinary profits funding the war, suddenly faces a security crisis. How do you protect thousands of kilometers of pipeline? How do you defend hundreds of pumping stations? How do you secure facilities that were built in an era when the longest-range threat was artillery? The suspension of operations at Tingovatovo has cascading effects. Oil that can't be pumped backs up in the system. Storage facilities fill up. Production might need to slow down. Contracts might be delayed. International customers start questioning reliability. Credit ratings agencies take notice. Insurance companies recalculate premiums. This strike establishes a new paradigm. Ukraine can hit any target in European Russia. The 1,000-kilometer range demonstrated here means major Russian cities, military bases, industrial facilities, and infrastructure nodes are all within reach. For Russia's military planners, this creates an impossible dilemma. They can't defend everything. They must choose what to protect, knowing that whatever they leave undefended becomes a potential target. Do you protect oil facilities or military bases, population centers, or industrial complexes? There aren't enough air defense systems to cover everything. The entire emergency response system operating in enhanced mode that Nikolaev mentioned reveals another vulnerability. If one drone strike can trigger maximum emergency response, what happens when there are multiple simultaneous strikes? How many facilities can emergency services handle at once? What we're witnessing is the democratization of long-range precision strike capability. Nations no longer need intercontinental ballistic missiles or strategic bombers to hit targets deep in enemy territory. With relatively simple drone technology, any nation can develop a 1,000-kilometer strike capability. This levels the playing field in ways that traditional military doctrine hasn't fully grasped. Russia's massive territory, once its greatest strategic asset, has become a liability. The same vastness that defeated Napoleon and Hitler now means there are too many targets to defend, too much infrastructure to protect, too many vulnerabilities to cover. The Tingovatovo strike also demonstrates the evolution of economic warfare. Instead of broad sanctions that take months or years to impact, precision strikes on economic infrastructure can have immediate effects. Every pumping station destroyed, every refinery damaged, every pipeline severed directly reduces the enemy's ability to fund their war effort. For Ukraine, this represents a sustainable strategy. They don't need to match Russia tank for tank or missile for missile. They just need to systematically degrade Russia's economic ability to sustain the war. And with drones that can reach 1,000 kilometers, they have thousands of potential targets to choose from. Consider this strategic question. How does a nation defend thousands of critical infrastructure targets across millions of square kilometers against long-range drone threats? Share your analysis in the comments. Subscribe for continued coverage of these game-changing military